and welcome to Jessie Book Club. Today we are reviewing All About History magazine, issue number 127. As you can see, I've got a new backdrop. I had to buy a futon for the spare room. My mum's coming to stay. Anyway, this magazine is mainly about Catherine the Great, Catherine the Tyrant. We've got some stuff about zoos, gangs of New York, and some other stuff. So let's get started. Where are we? Oh, all about the British Empire. And I will admit, I skimmed this. It was, everyone knows about the British Empire. Everyone knows it wasn't great. Everyone knows that we stole a whole bunch of stuff and were involved in slavery. And it was a bit of a apologetic piece. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But I've heard it all 500 times before, so I couldn't really be bothered reading it. I did like this guy though, the sepoy. I think that's how it's pronounced. The Indian military guard that was in the British. Look at those calves. Henry VIII would be proud of those calves. That looked really strange though. Like, whoever drew that looks like he's wearing high heels. Just pointing it out. What else have we got? More stuff about slavery that I'm not interested in. Oh, here we go. Catherine the Great. Now, I was reading this and a guy from up the road seen it and said that she looks like, I think it's the Governess off The Chase. This piece of artwork. And she does look a bit like the Governess off The Chase. Now that I've seen it, it's the only thing I can say. Does anybody else agree that she looks like the Governess off The Chase? That should be the Governess's like outfit. Not that I ever really watched The Chase, but I know who she is. And I made some notes. It was alright. Did anybody watch The Great on, I think, Channel 4? I can't remember what channel it was made it. But it was okay. There was a bit about how she took over from her husband. I've highlighted a few bits that I thought were interesting. The wedding night, you know, the consummation, her having her son, her having affairs, but there wasn't enough information about the affairs. Look at that royal Russian tiara, you know, so pretty. Well, it's like a crown, I guess, not a tiara. What else is there? Just 5 months pregnant by her lover when she tried to murder her husband. I don't know. Mainly it was about her military career and her seizing power, you know. There's things about her donning military uniform, her not being involved in the coup that usurped her husband, her plan to form a new Byzantine empire under Russia's leadership. I don't know, I read all of it, and the most famous portrait of Catherine the Great ever with her titties out, fighting everyone. Love it. What else? She wanted stuff she couldn't have, problems with her son, her, what's it called, she was against the Christian religion and justice to make slaves of men who were born free. She educated children. I mean, she was obviously an intelligent woman, but this article was dull as dull. And then we've got gangs in New York. And this article just made me want to watch the movie Gangs of New York. It was interesting enough. It talks about poverty, vice, wretchedness of life that immigrants faced when they arrived in America. Oh, here's a quote from Charles Dickens. Here too are lanes and alleys paved with mud, knee-deep underground chambers where they dance and game, and all the loathsome doings of decay is here. I highlighted that, and there's a picture. It also talks about how the gangs were, they kind of be portrayed almost for being more than they are. There's a lot of it, you know, and they say that a lot of the gangs that went under different names were actually all one gang. They just had different nicknames throughout time. Some unlikely gangs, many of the 5 Points crew, were more politically based, which you see in the movie Gangs in New York, but it was really immigrants who had come and then their children who are maybe second generation immigrants, not wanting more immigrants to come and take their jobs in more places. The same story the world over that has gone on for time in all eternity, and I still haven't managed to watch the movie again. It's like, what, 3 hours? It's a good movie though. The Bowery Boys, Bill the Butcher, who was a real person, which was quite interesting. And also I love the costumes in the movie. Can you guys see? Yeah, you can see. The costumes in the movie are so good. And I mean, it was interesting. And dead rabbits, and lots of Irish immigrants were in these gangs because they'd been in gangs here, and then they just went over there. And then we've got, okay, I'm going to murder the pronunciation of this, Murasaki Shikibu, the first novelist. And there we go. She wrote the first ever novel, not just the first novel ever written by a woman, the first ever novel. And about her life, but we don't really know anything about her life, so it was all just, I felt, imagined, and I didn't overly enjoy it. But then we got onto the history of zoos, and I really enjoyed this article with that lion, and not just because I like animals, but it was just interesting. So it was talking about royal collections and how royals. Okay, so I ran out of storage space while recording this, so I deleted a bunch of apps, and now we're getting back to zoos. We looked at the lion, and we started talking about royal collections and how one of the first recorded ever zoos or private collections was the female pharaoh Hatshepsut, who had elephants, leopards, and baboons in her wildlife collection. This article was written by Emily Stanforth, but the person who is quoted and giving information is Helen Cowie, who is a professor of early modern history at the University of York. And yeah, so royals wanted animals because it showed their influence and power. Having access to these creatures meant that you were in charge of the land. So, interesting little factoid. Here we go. There is, zoos become a common form of entertainment in the 18th century. The Portuguese king Manuel I staged a fight between a rhino and an elephant, and the elephant ran away. It was a smart elephant. I'm glad it did that. Then there's the story of the giraffe that wandered around Florence because it was given to one of the Medicis as a gift, and I thought it was really cute. Then it also talks about elephants in France in the 13th century being fed on wine, and they didn't live very long because poor drunk elephants. Then they talk about the polar bear that was given to Henry III by the Norwegian king Hakon. I don't know how to pronounce that. And the bear was allowed to feed itself, and they used to take it down to the River Thames, and he would like dive in, and people liked it. I really liked that. And he would swim about and look for fish. It reminded me of the story, if you've ever seen it, about the Scottish man who had the bear, and he used to like take it swimming on a lead. Where else? So we got one of the first zoos in Europe was actually Dublin Zoo, that was open to the public in 1831. I've always wanted to go to Dublin Zoo, but I never have, even though I live in Ireland. Lots of my friends have been, and they all say it's really good, especially compared to Belfast Zoo. I have only ever been to 3 zoos. Twice I've been to the Belfast Zoo, once as a kid, and I went a few years ago with some friends, and I've also been to Barcelona Zoo, which was really good, but I wasn't allowed to go to zoos as a child because my mum thought they were cruel, and so did my dad, so I wasn't allowed to go. So, you know, like most kids have been to like tons of zoos, not me. Wasn't allowed to go to a circus either because they were cruel. I'm kind of glad I never went to a circus because they are cruel, but I always wanted to go to a zoo. I was allowed to go to aquariums though, so that's a little bit odd. An orangutan in 1848 was fed on chocolate, roast meats, wine, and other liquors. In 1850, London got its first hippopotamus, and that was apparently a big deal, and they had lots of little hippo-related merchandise that you could buy. Then we got on to ancient demons from the deep. Not the best article, not the worst article. Always talked about mainly the history of how humans have always combined animal aspects with human aspects to create demons, and the first ones were actually in cave paintings. You see them there, and just humans need to have demons to explain all the ills in the world. Not the best article, not the worst article. I like that saying getting pulled apart by them. This magazine was a little bit lackluster. Then there's famous women or heroines of history. I read all of these, and they're all right. None of them went into too much detail. I would have preferred fewer people and then more historical evidence. This woman was the only one who really stood out to me. Constanza Markievicz. She was a Russian noblewoman who joined, well, the Russian Communist Party. No, she wasn't. I'm thinking of somebody else. She was a British noblewoman who joined the IRA. So it's interesting, but I'm not going to talk about that because I live in Belfast, and you get the idea. But it was an interesting read. You get the typical Elizabeth I. It wasn't my best article, and they were all written by individual people, which is fine. Then we get our battle report, which I'm not going to bore anybody with because I don't like them. I mean, it's fine if you're a dude and that's your thing, but it's not my thing. And then we get Alexander Hamilton. I don't get why people love Hamilton. I don't. Is it just a musical? Like, he's interesting. He's not that interesting. My friends are all obsessed with him. I don't get it. There are far more interesting people in history than Alexander Hamilton. Just because he has a musical about him does not make him like completely insane. Then we got marches that changed history, or marching for change. I've got some banners. I like banners. They were interesting enough. Nothing like massively stood out to me. I like to see the world. The world is sick. That's good. Then we've got movie and book reviews. Nothing again that really stood out to me. There is a movie of the month, The Founder. I liked The Founder. I probably would have given it a B. Good movie. The guy who started McDonald's was horrible. Really, really horrible. And then we got Po A Fu. It's like a version of roast beef, but might make it at some point. Probably not. I prefer the baking recipes from these, but I did make coronation chicken from, I think it's the last magazine. No, it's the next magazine I'm reading, which is about Charles II. The recipe at the end of that was the actual real recipe for coronation chicken, and I made that, and it was absolutely amazing, and I made it at the coronation, so that's good. But anyway, that is my review of All About History magazine, issue number 127. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe, because I have a whole bunch more on my playlist where I review all these history magazines. Bye!